It was scary in the beginning.
I was a little concerned for my staff and our customers.
I think now we're so used to it that it'd just be weird for us to have to go back if we go back.
2020, a year of trials, a year of uncertainty, a year of change for Iowa, the United States, and the world. It was a year marked by social unrest, political upheaval, economic turmoil, and at the center of it all, the COVID-19 pandemic. We began hearing of China's struggles with the highly contagious coronavirus in the latter months of 2019, and by March 2020, travel was heavily restricted, much of the US had been locked down, and people were being told to stay home and stay safe. State and local governments were forced to act quickly as experts scrambled to learn about the novel virus. Messages from the authorities were confusing and often had to be adjusted and corrected as more data emerged. But one fact remained certain: COVID-19 was serious, and it was not going away without action from the public. Flatten the curve quickly became a familiar phrase. It described the effort to slow the spread of the virus to keep hospitals and healthcare facilities from being overrun. The main way many businesses and organizations could help slow the spread was by sending employees home. Telecommuting became increasingly mainstream as mediums like Zoom, Skype, and Microsoft Teams replaced conference rooms. At the Iowa Child Support Recovery Unit, or CSRU, the pandemic could not be allowed to disrupt service. As more organizations sent employees to work from home, concerns and doubts arose.
I just didn't actually foresee it happening.
We didn't have equipment. We didn't have experience with the technology.
I was, thinking, gosh, people are going to struggle with this.
There are other states that have been doing remote working or telecommuting for years. I always was saying we should do that. It makes sense. Iowa has crappy weather. Let's do that at least during the winter. But then be careful what you ask for, because then I got told that I was going to go home, and I was a little apprehensive.
The statewide shift to telecommuting meant over 400 CSRU employees would need to transition into work-from-home situations.
Everybody that was going home obviously had to take their equipment home. So we had to make sure that we had all of that lined up. So you had to have internet at home. If you didn't, then we had to make sure that we got you a MiFi card.
Our IT staff was phenomenal. They are the ones that created the ability and the training documents and the checklists and all of that to get us to be able to go home. And because if I was going to tell someone how to set up their computer at home and what cords to plug in where, I would not have been able to do that.
CSRU leadership had to act quickly for the health of the employees and their families.
We had staff who needed to go out, who didn't have the resources to go out. We have a lot of rural areas in Iowa, and they don't have internet. Trying to figure out who should and who shouldn't go out, that was really left up to management to say, you go, because of what we know. But the unknown, I was most worried about. We didn't know if somebody maybe had an underlying health issue or had somebody at home that had an underlying health issue.
Initially, the word came down from central office at Hoover, DHS central office, that this was going to happen. And there were some different groups that were identified, folks that maybe had some health issues, because obviously the virus at that time, there was a lot that wasn't known about it. So what was known was that there were certain groups that were more susceptible to it. So those folks were identified, and those were typically the folks that went home first. So once we sent the first group of folks home, then you identified who your core group was going to be within each office. And those people were going to obviously stay behind. From there, it really was just trying, from my understanding, making sure that DHS as a whole had the bandwidth or the infrastructure in place to handle the remaining employees and getting all of them home. The day they all went home was crazy around here. I mean, we had people helping each other load stuff in their cars, and we had carts going out, but it was like, all right, everybody, this is the day. We got word that it was, I think, Friday, March 23rd, and boxes were being loaded, and people were by 4 o'clock out the door, and it went really smoothly. And then they got home, and the instructions were perfectly spelled out for them, and they had no issues.
You know, the transition of getting people sent home, and then the transition of having us core staff here, a system in place to support them and help them with the parts that they can't do from home. I was really surprised at how smooth that was. And it's really kind of opened my eyes to, how successful working from home can be and how well they are doing working from home as far as their performance and, still offering great customer service.
For many, cutting out their commute returned valuable time in their day.
Normally, I would get up around 5:30 or 6 so I could get everything ready here so I could travel about 30 minutes or so to work.
Some of them were talking about how they were taking their lunch time and either going for a walk. They were able to do yard work, so they had more time at the end of the day freed up to do things with their families, whether that was spend time with the kids outside, spend time going for walks, or baking, cooking, doing dinner, that sort of thing.
For others, working from home created new difficulties, especially with schools and daycares closed.
I have a couple kids of my own, so I knew with the schools and stuff too, I was just not sure of how it was going to work.
While it has its perks, telecommuting does have some drawbacks. Many employees spoke of missing their coworkers and mourned the ability to communicate face-to-face. Video conferencing is more complicated than simply stopping by your colleague's office or cubicle, and at the time of the making of this video, many CSRU employees have yet to be equipped with webcams.
We do a fun get to know you question before every meeting starts, just because I have had several staff start throughout this pandemic. So they have not had a chance to even work with their team members directly. It's all been virtually. And because they don't have webcams, they don't get to see each other. So they don't know who some of their team members are.
I thought, a couple weeks, a month, this will pass. We'll be on our way. And, isn't this great? We get to do this in between, but I didn't think it would ever be this long, this long term or this big of a change.
As the weeks became months, many months, staff found themselves making more adjustments.
I was set up on my kitchen table, and that took about a week before I kicked my son out of his bedroom into the basement. And I took over to build an office because it wasn't going to be temporary, and it was very difficult to work in an environment where there were distractions and you were uncomfortable and you didn't know where your things were.
It's been 9 months and people have run out of things. They've run out of paper, pads, pens, that sort of thing. Some folks have printers at home, they need ink, that sort of stuff. We've made arrangements here and they just let us know. Jana places the order and we make arrangements for them to stop in and pick it up.
Besides the obvious practical problems that came with the extended time away from the office, some less visible issues began to arise for employees at home.
And even my toughest, they're starting to crack, and and so you just have to keep reminding that we've got to stay the course and stay positive. But
I miss seeing my coworkers every day and just being able to print things without having to ask somebody else.
Really missing the people and the client, not being able to see the clients and when they walk in.
When everything's going along like it's supposed to, it's easy. You can pick up the phone, you can call somebody. But if there's a big issue,
the ability to resolve issues face to face.
However, many have also found ways to cope.
It's funny how you get used to it and you get your own realm of doing things.
The desk is downstairs because there isn't the separation between your living space and your workspace that you have when you're in an office. It's a separate room, of course. I try to dress every day as if I was going out of the house and somebody would see me, which means I'm not into the sweatpants and sweatshirt thing.
What about the customers? How did they handle the changes?
It's a mixed bag.
I think everybody at least I've talked to seems to be doing just fine.
We definitely have customers out there that have struggled with not being able to just walk into the office and get whatever they need done there. But I think our workers do a great job of explaining to them what their options are. We have several ways for customers to make their payments or to communicate with their worker without coming into a local office. So by explaining them what their options are, I think in the long run, our customers are really, preferring some of these new options that they either didn't have before or were simply unaware of.
A lot of our customers are like, oh, I wish I would have done this a long time ago. It's way easier than having to make a trip to the office. From changing to working at home, I've actually had more contact with my customers via email. They don't have to call us on their lunch break. If they send us an email, we'll get back to them.
I don't really think that any of this has impacted our customers as negatively as people might have assumed it might at the beginning. And we're still able to deliver all of our services. We're still able to have contact with our customers. We, are accessible to our customers. I think we're expanding the way that we're accessible to our customers.
Just from what I've seen, our workers are still hitting their goals. They're still providing great customer service. And so it's just, I'm impressed, and just keep up the great work. I think they're doing awesome.
Kudos to everybody that's been able to adjust, and supervisors and people on up that had to strategize and get everybody where they need to be and up and running.
No, I just appreciate, the whole state of Iowa, the whole child support recovery unit for making this possible for us. They care about our health and our safety, and that really means a lot to work for someone who does.
We're all in this together. That's what they keep saying.
If somebody would have asked me a year ago if we would be all working from home and be successful, I would have said it can't be done. So the fact that we were able to do it and not miss a single payment processing just blows my mind.
We're fourth in the nation for a reason, right? We work really hard. We care. We've got great leadership. We're just so fortunate to do the work that we get to do for families.
I'm not surprised at how well we transitioned to telework, because Iowa Child Support has been one that has always been on the top. We are very innovative and take change with stride. So, like I said, I'm not surprised, but I'm just amazed at our employees and how the passion for the work that we do is it's just wow.
I have said it from the time I've been here, 5.5 years, that CSRU has some of the best employees from across the state of Iowa. So I'm not surprised that they have stepped up to the plate and handled themselves in what I'm going to call the most professional and the utmost stellar way.